Old scuffed shoes take the first step beyond the massive iron gates. A gray, cold dawn. A man squints at a sun he hasn't seen in years. He is free. He walks to the road and hails a cab. He gets in. The driver asks, "Where to, boss?" The man exhales and gives an address. The driver freezes. He named the address of the prison he just left. Something compels the man to do this, and the answer is far deeper than it seems. It touches every one of us. Upon release, inmates are given what's called gate money, a symbolic amount, sometimes no more than $50. It's barely enough for a bus ticket and a meal. But our hero spends this money on a taxi to go back to the place that just kicked him out. This fact makes his action even more absurd, even more intriguing. Imagine yourself in that taxi driver's seat for a second. You'd think it was a prank, that the former inmate forgot something, or that he had simply lost his mind. This first, instinctive reaction, disbelief, is the key to understanding the whole story. Our brain refuses to accept this choice as rational. But for this man, it was. He is like a deep-sea fish suddenly brought to the surface. For the fish, the crushing pressure of the water isn't a prison. It's the only environment for survival. The freedom of the sunny shallows is certain death. For this man, the pressure on the outside was more terrifying than the pressure on the inside. We won't keep you in suspense. This isn't a story about crime. It's a story about psychology. In the next few minutes, we won't just tell you why he returned. We will give this phenomenon a name. We will show you how it works. And most importantly, how its traps are set in your own life. This phenomenon was precisely defined by sociologist Irving Goffman back in 1961 in his book Asylums. He called places like prisons, armies, and monasteries total institutions. The process they trigger in a person is a psychological breakdown that has its own name. So that first taste of freedom was bitter because, for this man, freedom wasn't a reward. It was a diagnosis. Here are the hard statistics. According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, about 68% of released prisoners are rearrested within 3 years. Their return isn't the exception, it's the brutal rule. Our hero simply decided to speed up the process. This phenomenon has a name: institutionalization. Simply put, it's the process by which a person merges so completely with the rules of a closed world that they become incapable of living in an open one. Their personality isn't just suppressed, it's erased and replaced with a set of instructions. Imagine your personality as a river. An institution builds a dam and forces that river into a narrow concrete channel. After 10 years, the old riverbed dries up and becomes overgrown. If you remove the dam, the river can no longer flow its old course. It only knows one path, the concrete channel. It's like an animal that has spent its entire life in a zoo. It's fed on a schedule, its cage is cleaned, it doesn't need to hunt. If you release it into the wild, it will die. Not because it doesn't want freedom, but because it has forgotten how to be free. Its skills have atrophied. This is the story of Keiko, the orca from the movie Free Willy. After decades of effort and millions of dollars spent on his return to the ocean, he continued to seek contact with humans. He died of pneumonia in a Norwegian fjord, never having joined his wild relatives. He was free, but he had forgotten what that meant. Think about your first day of vacation after a crunch at work, or your first day after college. That strange feeling of emptiness and the question, what do I do now? That's a microdose of the same sensation. Institutionalization is when that feeling becomes permanent. Psychologists call a similar feeling decision fatigue, when you can't choose between yogurt and cereal. Now, imagine your entire life as one long paralysis of choice. The only decision you can make is to return to a place where there are no decisions. But this isn't just a bad habit. The system breaks a person on 3 fundamental levels, and the first is the most subtle and destructive. It has to do with what you eat for breakfast. In many prisons, the menu operates on a strict 4-week cycle. This means that for 20 years, every 29th day, you will have the exact same thing for breakfast. It's not about the food. It is about the complete annihilation of spontaneous choice, the very thing that defines life on the outside. This lack of choice destroys a second, even deeper level, self-determination. Inside the system, you are not a person, you are a function, inmate number so-and-so, soldier, patient, your past life, your hobbies, your character, all of it becomes irrelevant. The system gives you a new, simple identity. To lose it is to become a nobody. It's easier to go back to being a prisoner than to build yourself from scratch. Philip Zimbardo proved this in his Stanford prison experiment. Ordinary students. Assigned roles transformed into cruel guards and broken prisoners in just a few days. The experiment had to be stopped prematurely. Now, imagine it lasted not 6 days, but 20 years. The muscle responsible for choice atrophies from disuse. When you get out, it's not just weak, it's dead. There's a famous story about a man who, after 30 years in prison, broke down crying in a supermarket. He later said, "I could handle a man with a knife, but I couldn't handle the jam aisle." This isn't weakness, it's a short circuit in an overloaded system. And the third hook, the most obvious one, the world outside doesn't wait. In 15 years of incarceration, smartphones, online banking, and new social norms appear. You were locked up in 2005 when the best phone was a Nokia with a flashlight, and you're released today when people pay for coffee with their watches and cars drive themselves. You haven't just entered a new world. You've landed on another planet. You're a time traveler. Without a guide. Prison, for all its brutality, was understandable. The world outside is hostile and incomprehensible. Let's look at it through our hero's eyes. For him, the outside world isn't freedom. It's a deafening chaos he can't control. But prison is predictability. It's order. It's safety. His choice isn't between freedom and confinement. It's between order and chaos. In his book, Escape from Freedom, psychoanalyst Erich Fromm wrote that people are often willing to choose tyranny over the chaos of genuine freedom because tyranny offers predictability. Our hero isn't choosing prison. He's choosing certainty. The scariest part is that you don't need bars and barbed wire to build such a prison. We build them for ourselves in our daily lives. These prisons don't have iron bars, they have golden ones. A stable salary, a clear schedule, a predictable career. The cage is so comfortable that we forget it's a cage. A job you hate but don't leave for years is the same kind of system. It gives you an identity, manager, lawyer, specialist. It relieves you of the need to make risky decisions and allows your skills for the outside world to atrophy. Leaving is scary because out there lies the chaos of freelancing and startups. Here's a statistic. According to a 2022 Gallup poll, only 21% of people worldwide are truly engaged in their work. This means that almost 8% are just serving time in an office they don't care about. They have voluntarily traded freedom and passion for stability and predictability, or consider a relationship where one partner completely controls the other, what to wear, who to talk to, where to go. The person loses their will, their identity, their friends. They get used to the rules of this small prison. To leave means to face the world alone, to make decisions independently. Many prefer to go back. This is a classic example of learned helplessness, a phenomenon discovered by psychologist Martin Seligman. When a living being is repeatedly subjected to unavoidable punishment, it eventually stops trying to escape, even when an opportunity arises. The psychological bars become stronger than real ones. On a scale of institutionalization from 1 to 10, where 10 is our hero at the prison gates, a gilded cage in an office can easily score a 6 or 7. The main indicator is the fear of the unknown outside the system. The stronger it is, the higher the score. Here's a quick test for you. Imagine you were fired today, but with a huge golden parachute. Is your first feeling terror or excitement? The more terror you feel, the higher your score on the institutionalization scale. It's a direct measure of how much the system owns you. But why, even after realizing we're in a cage, can't we get out? The reason isn't a lack of willpower, it's math. A strange experiment proved that when it comes to freedom, more actually means less. In 2001, psychologists Sheena Iyengar and Mark Lepper conducted a simple experiment in a supermarket. They offered shoppers samples of jam. One display had 24 varieties, another had only 6. The result was a blow to logic. When there were 24 varieties, only 3% of people bought jam. When there were 6, 30% made a purchase. But the most important finding wasn't in the numbers. Those who chose from 6 jars were much happier with their purchase. Less choice led to more action and greater happiness. This phenomenon has a name, the paradox of choice. Psychologist Barry Schwartz proved that a core tenet of the Western world is a lie. More choice doesn't mean more freedom. It means more paralysis. Now go back to our hero at the gates. The entire world for him is a display with 24 kinds of jam, thousands of professions, millions of people. It's a cognitive storm. And prison is a display with 1 jar, understandable, predictable, guaranteed. His brain is like an old computer with not enough RAM. The outside world is trying to run 1,000 programs on it at once. The system freezes. Prison is one simple program that runs without crashing. He didn't choose a bad program, he chose the only one his system could run. This doesn't mean we are doomed to always choose the simplest paths. There is a clear protocol to hack the system that holds you. It consists of just 3 steps. We call it the Deinstitutionalization protocol. It's not magic. It's a set of exercises used by therapists to help people escape their gilded cages. It's reverse brainwashing. You wouldn't try to bench press 400 pounds after 10 years without training. Likewise, you can't just decide to be free. You have to start with small weights to rebuild the atrophied choice muscle. Here's the first exercise. Step 1. Take one tiny illogical action that breaks your routine. Today, go home from work a different way. Order something you've never tried at a cafe. Text an old friend for no reason. The goal is to prove to your brain that deviating from the rules doesn't lead to catastrophe. This is a practical exercise in neuroplasticity. Every time you break your routine, you are literally forging a new neural pathway. You're telling your brain, see, the world didn't end. We can do that again. It's like digging an escape tunnel with a teaspoon. Slow, but inevitable. Step 2. Recall one skill or hobby you abandoned when you entered your system. Drawing, playing the guitar, learning a language. Spend 15 minutes on it, no more, but do it every week. This rebuilds your identity outside the system. You're not just an employee, you're also an artist. Psychologists call this identity diversification. If 100% of your identity is accountant, then getting laid off is equivalent to death. But if you're 60% accountant, 20% guitarist, and 20% runner, your identity becomes much more resilient to any external storms. And the third step, find one anchor on the outside. It could be a volunteer project once a month, a sports league on weekends, or just one friend with whom you agree to never talk about work. This anchor will pull you outward. It will remind you that there is another life beyond the walls. Imagine you've thrown it outside your system. When the storm of routine hits inside, this anchor is the only thing keeping you from drifting further away. It's your connection to the mainland by which you can one day pull yourself ashore. The story of the man taking a taxi back to prison is an extreme case, but it exposes a fundamental conflict within each of us. So what drove him more? Learned helplessness or a conscious choice of order over chaos? Type just one word in the comments, helplessness or choice. It will be interesting to see which one gets more votes. As Jean-Paul Sartre said, man is condemned to be free. Perhaps our hero's story disturbs us so much because he simply refused his sentence. So what was it? An escape into helplessness or a rational rejection of the terrifying burden of freedom? Thanks for watching. If this video made you think, the best reward would be your like and subscription. See you next time.